Let's jump right in. Have you ever had that feeling where you're looking at the world, at the news, at the economy, and it just doesn't line up with what you're actually living through day to day? It's like you and your neighbor living in two totally different realities. Well, today we're going to dive right into that disconnect. We're talking about the clash between the hard data, the political stories we're told, and our own personal experiences, and how all of that combines to shape the world we think we see. And really, this whole conversation can be framed by this one powerful idea from Morgan Housel. He says your personal experiences, they make up maybe 80% of how you see the world. Think about that. It means no matter how many charts or statistics someone throws at you, what you've seen with your own two eyes, that's what feels real. That's the most persuasive thing there is. And honestly, that's the key to understanding the huge divides we're seeing all around us. All right, so let's start with maybe the biggest disconnect of them all right now, the economy. You can have headlines screaming one thing, but for millions of people, the lived experience is something else entirely. It's a real tale of two economies. And what's so fascinating is when you look at the data, this isn't just a feeling, it's a fact. The Fed's own Beige Book, it literally paints a picture of a K-shaped economy. Just imagine the letter K. You've got one arm trending up and the other trending down, right? Well, that top arm represents higher income households. Yeah, they're feeling rising costs too, but their investments, their job security, it's all generally moving up. But then you've got the bottom half of the K. And for them, the data shows a huge surge in demand for food assistance. Food banks are getting strained. It is the same economy, but it's creating two completely different and very real realities. Okay, so let's get even more specific. How does a single policy decision create these different realities? Let's talk about tariffs. It's easy for us to hear about trade policy and have it feel really abstract, really far away. But what happens when that policy shows up on the price tag at the store? Well, here's what happens. This is about as real world as it gets. Value City Furniture, a company that's been around for 75 years with over 100 stores, filed for bankruptcy. And when they did, they pointed a finger directly at the tariff situation as a major cause. This isn't some economic model, folks. This is a household name, a real business closing its doors for good. And if you want to know why, just look at these numbers. This shows the tariff hit on everyday stuff, like things you'd buy for the holidays. The average tariff rate on toys, it jumped from 0 to over 22%. Christmas decorations went from less than 1% to over 23%. So what does that mean? It means American companies got stuck paying billions of dollars in these new taxes. And that cost, well, it always finds its way to you and me. And this impact, it doesn't just stop at the store. The source data shows this massive ripple effect across the entire economy. U.S. manufacturing, it's been shrinking for 35 of the last 37 months. We even found a report from one company saying they were actually moving more manufacturing offshore because of the tariffs. So a policy that was supposed to bring jobs back was in some cases pushing them away. It even hits tourism. International spending in a place like Niagara Falls saw a noticeable drop. It all connects. So if economic policy can create these different realities, you can bet that political narratives can just throw gasoline on the whole fire. Because these policies, they don't just appear out of nowhere. They're often born in these moments of intense political pressure. So let's pivot and look at what our sources describe as some serious turmoil happening inside the U.S. government itself. This is a direct quote from an attorney inside the Department of Justice. Just read that again. The claim here is a total reversal of how things are supposed to work. Instead of finding facts to build a case, the job became finding facts to fit a story that was already written. It describes a reality where the narrative comes first and the evidence has to be shoehorned in after. And here's another account, this time from a senior communications advisor, that just reinforces that same theme. The fear being described here is that if you're a prosecutor and you bring a tough case that happens to go against the political narrative of the day, it could literally end your career. And, this isn't just about feelings or morale. According to one prosecutor that was cited, this internal chaos led to a very real, very quantifiable brain drain. The National Security Unit in D.C., we're talking the office that handles counterterrorism and espionage, saw its staff get cut in half. And then all that internal pressure starts to spill out onto the world stage. The sources basically lay out this timeline. It starts with a presidential declaration on social media. That's followed by a reported military directive to kill everybody during a strike on a boat in the Caribbean. And then you have a former military lawyer looking at this and saying, hey, wait a minute. Without a legitimate war, that order could be a war crime.
This is a perfect example of a political narrative of conflict turning into direct and very dangerous action.
And what was one of the direct, measurable, but probably completely unintended consequences of those military strikes in the Caribbean? Cocaine inflation. Yep, you heard that right. According to analysts, by disrupting those trafficking routes, the price for a kilogram of cocaine shot up by 30 to 45%. A political action created a massive economic reaction in a black market. Wild stuff. Okay, so we've looked at a K-shaped economy, we've seen tariffs bankrupting companies, and we've watched political chaos spill out onto the world stage. How on earth are we supposed to make sense of all this when it feels like everyone is living in a different reality? So let's end with one more brilliant insight from Morgan Housel. He argues that the world isn't necessarily more uncertain or chaotic. It's just that our perception of it is. We go through these periods where we're actually pretty ignorant, but we're incredibly confident. Think back to that economic data. One person sees strength, another sees a struggle. It's not that the world suddenly became more uncertain, it's that maybe we were just too confident in one single story right before the data showed us a completely different reality for millions of people. And all of this leaves us with a really critical question to chew on. In a world with so many competing narratives, from personal experience to economic data to political spin, how do we figure out which story is actually real? How do you decide? It's something we all need to think about. Look, we are tracking these flows in real time. While you're thinking about the next move, you can check out some of the tools we use in the description. You can sign up for Public and get $20 in free assets, check out Webull for that BTC promo, or even look into NVDA on Moomoo. All the links are down below.
And hey, if you got something out of this, do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dive analysis.
And just a quick reminder, as always, this is for educational purposes only. It's based on data that's changing all the time. This is not financial advice, so please always do your own homework. Thanks for watching.